Hello and welcome to episode 500 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. And join me as always is the glorious LeagueFreak. You can also find on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going very well, Andrew. 500, half a millennia of dominance over the podcasting market. How good's it been?
It's been a solid 8 months.
Yeah. It's remember how it started? It was a lot of intense negotiation.
Yeah. I should go back and have a look at what the intense negotiation was, but I'm pretty certain it was about 3 or 4 messages and that was it. Do you want to do a podcast? Yeah, all right then. How do we do it? I don't know. Let's get on Skype and see what happens. Yeah, and then we press record and here we are 500 episodes later.
I remember you'd posted on Twitter, I should do a podcast, and I'd been thinking about doing it for like 8 years. And so I just messaged you and said, let's stop fucking around and do one.
Yeah. It's kind of the way I operate. I kind of just need someone to kick me in the ass to get things going, and then I'm all right.
Yeah.
Speaking of kicking me in the ass, we've got my boss on the line as well.
Andrew?
Joining us on the episode. You are the boss. It's Shwan Dollin from Rugby League Project. How you going, mate?
I'm going fantastic. I feel like I'm in a time warp at the moment. Looking at Skype.
Yeah.
I literally haven't used this based on my conversation history, about 10 years.
Yeah, so the last time you used Skype, the West Tigers still hadn't played in the finals.
Can I just say, before we really get into it, congratulations to you both on 500.
Thanks.
I mean, there's one Test cricketer in the history of the game, and that's a lot of history, that scored 500 runs, and that was Brian Lara. So you're in rare air now.
Yeah, and we've done it like when it's relevant too, unlike Brian Lara. So it's been good. It's been really good.
Well, I don't know. We could talk about the quality of opposition, but I don't actually listen to other podcasts anymore. So
no, neither do I. I
was going to be egotistical and say I only listen to the ones that I'm on, but I don't even listen to our one.
No, it's been good. It's weird to think we've done 500 of them, and like we jump on to talk about footy. We never prepare, and we end up talking for 2 hours at a time about it, and we cut it off because it's getting too late. Like we could just keep talking all night if we wanted to, because we have done before. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we did a few of those live episodes. Remember those overnight, and they would go for 3-4 hours.
Yeah, what was the longest one we did? Like I feel like it was close to 6.
Probably. There was one watching a football game where the game went for almost 6 hours.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was fucking nuts. Anyway, so Shawn, tell me about the first time you started doing one shred of work on Rugby League Project.
One shred of work. Well, it was actually funny you asked that. It was when I was supposed to be doing actual paid work at a job at a desk in a little suburb in Sydney called Lewisham, where I had a job working in a research and development. What do you call it when a business owner finds out a way to get money from the government and they take advantage of it?
Scam?
Research and development money. Scam. Well, whatever that was. So
I just hope at the end of this you don't say you worked at Pfizer, but go on.
No, this is a business that no longer exists, and it was a good company. I enjoyed it, but I was a little bored. There wasn't a lot to do, and there wasn't a lot riding on what I did. So, it just turned into trying to bide my time. And I think Andrew might have talked about how it all started in the past, about how it was going to be a Cowboys thing, and I was like, well, no one's got a Cowboys site up. I remember actually finding a Panthers fan site back then. This was in 2004, I think it all kicked off. And I was like, we need some Cowboys representation. And then I got so much information, and I thought, you know what, this is like, it's like when you discover something more than you start something. It felt like I was discovering something that the internet and the world needed. And so I just ran with it. I went, you know what, let's just kick it off. And the first season I did was 1995, because that was just the information I was finding. I think I found it on an old website called The Vault.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Absolute legendary website. And I just went, you know what? Let's just put this into a database and make it happen. And that was 2004, 2005. One of those 2 years was when I really actually started working on it.
And so you put it together, you make a website out of it. When did this bludger stroll in and say, "Oh, I'll take credit for all of this"?
It's a few years after. I think it was about maybe 2008.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
I want to say, because so the history of Andrew and I should chuck in is dates back to our league, I believe.
All right.
Or did we kick it off on League Unlimited?
It was League Unlimited, yeah.
Yeah, so my first exposure to internet forums was basically our league, the world of our league.
Wasn't that a wonderful place too? Hey,
was that one of those MSN groups things?
No, it was just a forum. But it got blown up by Ray Hadley.
Yeah, during the Bulldog stuff. Hey,
that's right.
Yeah. And then,
so everyone refugeed their way on over to League Unlimited, and that was where I met my friend Andrew, aka Mad Unit.
That's it.
I don't know if I can legally say that on this podcast, but
so you called yourself Andrew?
That was my my username on the forums. I started out on the official West Tigers forum and got kicked off for not being positive enough about the West Tigers.
Yeah,
and
can't imagine that.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. So I think it was about late 2005. And I was pretty much running the mantra then that the Tigers are going to jag their way all the way to the premiership here because they just had an easy run all the way through, and all the West Tigers fans going, "Oh, we've earned this," and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but we have had the easier run. And then I swore at someone and got suspended for 2 weeks. So then I went over to the League Unlimited forum, found the West Tigers forum, made one post, and then found they had a South Sydney one, and so I basically just bombarded that with South Sydney hate.
You did the South Sydney hate thing like I did early on.
Yeah, so, well, you got to pick the easy targets.
I was doing that in '98. Just fucking crazy.
Oh, I didn't have the internet in '98 because I lived in the country.
Yeah, true. One day they'll get the internet out there too.
One day.
It'll be good.
It's coming in a box.
Yeah. So you two team up. Andrew obviously has a thing for rugby league history, and Shawn, you've got this website. And when did you discuss? When did the discussion sort of start? Where you thought, let's work together and build something here?
Well, Andrew was the one that came forward to me, so I didn't really have this idea of how I was going to bring people in because I knew it was more than I could handle. That was clear as day. And initially, I actually had it set up so I would say put all the data in for a specific competition or a season, and then once I was finished and I'd verified it all and I was happy that the data was correct, then I would go bang, hit a button, and it would go live on the site that everyone could see. So people didn't actually see all the work I was doing in the background. And then Andrew came along and he said, "Hey, my name's Andrew. I'm writing a book. I'm really interested in what you're doing. I want to help out. What can I do to help?" And I'd already had a really good association with Andrew on the Forum Sevens competition that we used to be a part of. And we were both in the same team together, and that team was the Panthers.
It was, yeah.
Funnily enough.
Let's be honest, we were phenomenal.
We were the best, clearly. And we got robbed by the refs every time because they ran the competition.
Yes.
That's a whole other story for another time. And
name names.
No, I can't. We'd already established a really good rapport, so we were good mates. I trusted him completely. I still do. And yeah, like you said before, he's taking credit for everything we've done, but that's fine. And we just figured it out from there. And I mentioned the thing about sort of being very gently with the data that went live to the website because Andrew really encouraged me to say, look, you've got all this stuff sitting here. Let's just get it all out there and then sort it out later on. And that's the way we've handled it ever since, and it's been great.
That's cool. Now, when did the site start to get some momentum? Because there's always a point where, like, you're doing things, you're having fun, you're sort of, if no one was going there, you're just having fun by yourself. And then one day you kind of look at the numbers and you go, wait a minute, what the fuck is going on here? And it starts building. And you're just having fun. You're still doing the same things you've always been doing. When did that point happen?
It was around, I'd say it's pretty much around the same time that Andrew got on board.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Initially, it was on my own personal website, which was on noddy.nu, and that was a domain name I registered on the cheap in 2000 because there was a deal running on .nu domain names, and that was available, and I thought,
he's one of these
funny.
fucking people that buys addresses. Wow.
Well, they only got one, and then they jacked the price up the following year, but I was stuck with it, so that's a whole other thing. So it was originally noddy.nu/RL project, and then I think it was 05, so probably about 8 or so months after I'd started it. It started to get a little bit of traffic and a little bit of attention. I'd obviously pushed it a little bit on the forums as well, saying to people, hey, I'm doing this, check it out. And that's when I registered the domain name. So we call that the birthday of Rugby League Project in 05.
Oh, cool.
And then actually it was originally rugbyleagueproject.com, and I thought, nah, org sounds better because it's like we don't want to associate ourselves with money. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the numbers really started to get a little bit of momentum about when Andrew got on board. So towards the end of the 2000s, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, I was just looking at the numbers earlier on today, actually, and this year, in the month of August, we got over 1 million visits.
That's fucking brilliant.
In that calendar month. So it was on the back of, for all the nerds out there, SEO. Organic SEO was what got the numbers really rolling. And it takes Google a couple of years to really trust the domain name.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of coincided with a bit of know-how on my part because I do this for a living. I knew what would work on Google in terms of organic SEO. So giving page titles and content, the sort of stuff that people would be typing into searches, and then just let it grow over time, was patient. And then, now when you search for stuff, it tends to come up pretty strongly. So.
Yeah, I got in on SEO stuff before it was even called SEO as well. And I just lucked into it. Like it just, what I was doing worked. And it does, like if you got in early, Google's really kind to you, which is awesome because I guess now, because everyone's doing SEO, I think that the thing that they weigh back onto is how long something's been doing good SEO for. And that's where they send the traffic to. That's great. That's a pretty straightforward story.
I was going to say, a good example of LeagueFreak's ability with SEO is if you go to Google and type in the 2024 NRL draw, he's on the first page of results.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
Hey, Andrew, put in the 2025 NRL draw. See who comes up then.
How many years have you got there? We got first on the list.
Put in the 2026 NRL draw, Andrew.
You're all over it, Freaky.
Hey, am I there? Have I done 26?
No, you haven't.
Okay, I'll get on to that tonight. Yeah, and those pages were made fucking years ago, hey. But yeah, so you've got this website. It's humming along. When did you realise, both of you, that this website was starting to become a really important reference for not only people that were just, curious about rugby league statistics, but people within the game, people within the media? When did you realise that was starting to happen?
It was when a very famous, legendary player by the name of Darren Lockyer was rapidly approaching his 350th game.
Mm-hmm.
I could cite a couple of things that happened before that. One of my favourite moments in the history of Rugby League Project was when I was at work one day, and I got an email, I think, from David Fairley saying, "Hey, I came across your website. Can I give you a call?" And I was like, "Fucking A, you can!" Like, David Fairley, you kidding? He actually called me and just basically said, "Well done, keep it up." And that was was a really awesome sort of moment. I was just like stoked the whole time I was on the phone with him. But yeah, this was a moment where Darren Lockyer was approaching his 350th game. And, obviously the media was saying he's about to pass the great Terry Lamb's record of 349 games. And Andrew and myself always had a tendency to double and triple check everything that we had because the functionality of the site is such that all numbers are generated based on what's in the database.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have anything in the database that says, Terry Lamb had played, let's say, 349 games because we had every game that he appeared in. So there was literally a query in there based on where you went that said, based on him being in these games, he adds up to 349. The problem was his number added up to 350.
Mm-hmm.
And this wasn't uncommon. This had happened a few times. Like, you'd watch an old game and it'd come up on the screen saying it was so-and-so's 100th game. So we'd go, oh, that game is his 100th. So let's check it back and make sure we haven't missed any. So we start checking Terry Lamb, and it turned into an absolute marathon because all the numbers we had added up to 350. So we started to make a little bit of noise about it. And then there was a guy that had a pretty popular sort of NRL news site that I think it was W.D. Nicholson, was it?
That's the one, yeah.
He got in touch with us and he wrote an article about it and blew it up a little bit because we basically proved that he played 350 games. And this was going again, like, we didn't do it lightly. We went and checked with West's historians because he played a bunch of games there in the early 80s, and we checked with Bulldogs historians and made sure that it all matched up and added up, and we couldn't find where it was wrong. And so it became a bit more of a thing than just something's happening here.
We even had the Bulldogs historian go through match tapes to see if he could actually see Terry Lamb running onto the field in the games that we weren't sure on.
Mm-hmm.
And he confirmed, oh, yeah, he ran on the field in this game. And, yeah, he was there for that one. And I could see him over there in the background in the defensive line. And you're like, okay, cool. We can tick all these ones.
So, yeah, that was probably a moment where we started to realise, well, I started to realise for sure that the site's definitely getting noticed now because it blew up a little bit on Twitter and the other socials. And we even started to get a little bit of hate from Broncos fans saying that we're trying to steal thunder off of Darren Lockyer's milestone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was interesting. And I even got a call from the great David Middleton to discuss what was going on too. So it was pretty serious.
And then we ended up having a conversation with the NRL over it.
Yeah.
So who was it at the NRL you talked to?
Oh. Who the fuck was it? It was whoever was pretty high up.
Yeah, it was the media manager. So Andrew and
right.
I ended up having a bit of a chat about it because we got the impression that it wasn't something that whether it was the NRL or I think this is pre-ARLC.
Yes, it was. It was.
Yeah. And the Bulldogs themselves didn't really want to make a lot of fanfare about it. I think we spoke with Todd Greenberg when he was at the Dogs at the time.
Yes, that's right.
From memory. So they didn't want to basically come out and say, oh, we were wrong. It was actually 350, because you don't want to admit that you're wrong in that sort of situation. And there was talk about things like, people have memorabilia that say, have his picture on it and it's got the 349, they were stressed about people freaking out because the number's wrong now.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, okay. So we sort of pushed it a little bit, but on the quiet. We were respectful of their wishes because we didn't want to make any enemies. And it was a real moment when I think it was the 2009 season. I'm trying to think of what year it was that it all came about, maybe 9 to 10. But whatever year it was, the following year I got the preview, one of those little sort of A5 size little booklets that have all the players for each team and their prospects and whatnot. And in that book, it had players with the most games. It had Lockyer with 351 or whatever he ended up on. And then below that was Terry Lamb, 350. And that was the moment where I thought, we're making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty good. And that was where I felt like we really become something more than just a goofy little website on the internet. Like we're becoming part of something more important.
Yeah, and I mean, that sort of thing seems to have carried forward too, in that all the statistics that you both do put together, and I know there's a team of people that help with that. It's not just thrown on there, haphazardly. It's all researched and double-checked and triple-checked, and if ever there's a query about something, you reach out to people, you go back through things, you talk to people that know stuff and make sure that it's all correct. And I think that that's why Rugby League Project is the number one rugby league stats site because of that work and care and dedication that's put into it. That everyone knows if you get a statistic off there, it's a good statistic. You know that it's been thoroughly researched. So being able to have that reputation is solid gold.
I mean, yeah, your support has been tremendous, of course, over the years, and that extends to the whole rugby league community. Like, you know, I've seen a few examples where people get really behind us, and they understand that sometimes the data is incomplete, or sometimes it doesn't add up, or sometimes I literally roll out some code on production that is just broken. Like literally today, I had to fix an issue on the 1986 New South Wales Rugby League ladder, because all of the ladders on the site as well are calculated from the match results, right? So given all of the mad shit that happens with different competitions over the years, and this includes World Cup groups, this includes, you know, like the Super 8s garbage that happened over in England in the mid-2010s, you know, all of the different comps that have had buys and not buys and, you know, everything under the sun. There's a big block of code in there that handles all that. So sometimes things go a little bit askew. And yeah, there was 1986 had a playoff between, I think, Balmain and Norths. And for whatever reason, the code was including that playoff game in the kind of normal season matches. And it took one of their buys out. So they were lacking a buy and they went down to 6th and 7th and the Dragons were 5th. So my good mate, Stephen Russo, thank you, mate, for pointing that out. I fixed that up and now it's back to normal. So there's, you know, people understand that. They know that we're working hard all the time and little mistakes happen and they're really respectful of that and they reach out and just say, hey, just notice this, can you fix it up? And we'll do it as soon as we see it. Except for one that you gave me, Andrew, last week that I still haven't got to. That's a duplicate game.
Oh, yeah.
Where's the duplicate game? Where can we look that up?
It was something to do with the USA versus Ireland A or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
some
international.
It was reported in two different ways, and so it got recorded at two different times as two different games. But it was, I think, one way it said USA versus Ireland A, and another one said USA versus Ireland A. So it looked like different games.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and further research, you look at it and go, yeah, that's the same game, and then you just delete one.
I also remember a line by Roy Masters where he said, and it was around the time the Storm had been found out they broke the salary cap, and Roy Masters said that the official statistics, rugby league statistics, will start looking like somebody's homework that they have just all these wrong answers in because it's got marks and teams lost points and all this stuff. It always sticks with me. Okay, I'm going to ask you both. I'll ask Andrew first, and then I'll ask you, Shawn. What is your number one favourite statistic in rugby league history?
Statistic?
Yes.
See, I think the best ones is the phenomenal ones. So the best one is the two times that Andrew Ettinghausen scored 5 tries in a game, fell on the same date but on different years. And now I've got to find out what it is. It's sometime in August from memory.
How about you, Shawn? What's yours?
My favourite stats revolve around a famous bloke called Brian Bevan.
Mm-hmm.
His numbers defy belief. Like, you know, we have Bradman in cricket. This guy's the equivalent in rugby league. Absolutely insane number of tries and points that he scored in England. I haven't not cited a specific one because he has so many wow sort of records that it's hard to just pick one.
Yeah.
But he's usually what I go to when I look at stats that just blow your mind.
Yes, he's in Albert Rosenfeld. The sheer volume of tries he scored in such a short period of time. Those two would be. I mean, I can't wait to put those in there because they are insane.
Yeah, they're both out there. I bet Andrew could probably guess mine if I said one number to him. 49.
49?
Yeah.
Oh, was that when the Magpies won their last premiership?
No.
Oh. 49.
This is 49, not 1949.
Number of tries by Nathan Cleary?
Nope.
Am I close?
Come on, Andrew. You're talking a league freak. 49.
49.
Is this going to be a Jerome Luai stat?
No.
Okay.
It's one less than 50.
Oh, yeah.
Because one of them was an exhibition game. Didn't fucking count.
Oh, right. Now you got me. Is that the number of internationals played by, is it Gary Schofield?
Yep. 49, not 50. Sorry, Gary.
That came out in a conversation after I've been doing some work with the International Rugby League about which games we're going to include and not include.
And they tried hard, didn't they?
There was a very brief discussion about how we should include games against the rest of the world, and I said no.
Mm-hmm.
It's games between, international countries, not international conglomerates.
Mm.
So as much as I didn't really get my way there, because there was a series that was played in Europe back in, either sides of both world wars. It was a European Cup or something like that. And for several of those years, England, France, Wales would play against other nations. And the ruling that was made was if international teams, like, or what they used to be called was test nations, were playing in an international an officially sanctioned and recognised competition, then all teams competing in that competition will be given test status for those games. So other nationalities has a bunch of test matches because of that. But because the rest of the world never actually played in tournaments, they often play games against the world champion at the end of a World Cup, but those games were not included as part of the tournament. That was like some exhibition thing at the end for a few extra dollars out of the gate. That was pretty much it. But if they had been included as part of the competition, then the rest of the world would have been in, and Gaz would be up to 50.
But he's not. So what is it like to both of you to have a website that is very well known and stuff and just absolutely crushes the opposition into nothingness, into dust? What's that like?
I don't think about the opposition. I just worry about making it the best and making sure it does what it's going to do. Serve the community. Make sure it has all the information it has. Keep adding to it. I mean, this is the thing, Freak. We have this perspective, or at least I have this perspective, that it's called project because it's literally just a project that I do when I get spare time, because I'm not good at sitting around and grabbing the remote, grabbing a bowl of chips and just chucking on the telly and watching Desperate Housewives of Mount Druitt or whatever it is that's on telly, right?
Wouldn't that be a show?
Like,
wow.
That's that. I'm pitching that, by the way. That's separate. I shouldn't have mentioned it. But that's my thing is, like, I feel like I just need to be sort of hacking away at something. And this is something that has become, I didn't plan it this way, but I could live till I'm 150 and I'll still have something to do.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether I'm working full time or not. So that's just how I feel about it. I try to keep it as unique and sort of me as possible, because it's something that I want to be able to use. I feel like a lot of the time I just have it there so I can actually use it. If I want to look something up, I just want to use my site and look it up because I know where it is and I know it's going to be there. So, yeah, I tend to not think about winning necessarily. It's just having something to do.
What are your thoughts, Andrew?
I'm not too much dissimilar. I don't really think too much about how we look and stuff like that. It's more about, I don't know, that's going to sound negative, but I'm thinking about the data that we don't have in there yet that I need to go find. So at the moment I've started, and this is the problem I have too, is I don't often sit on one task long enough to finish it if I've come up against a bit of a wall. And I know I've got to go to a library or something like that down the road to go find some other stuff to finish it off. I'll just start something else. and then forget to go to the library, and then I'll find the thing later on and go, oh yeah, better do that next time I go down there. But so like at the moment I've started dabbling away at the Brisbane Rugby League, Queensland Rugby League competitions when they first began. And I'm kind of motivated too by people telling me that all the information was lost and we don't have any data. I was like, has anyone tried?
Yeah.
Because I'm about to.
Yeah.
And I'll sit there and I think there was one of the competitions recently just before World War One, which it might have only had 60 games for the whole season. Took me several weeks to go through and find that stuff. And the year before was even worse, and that took a few months. And that's just score lines. That's not getting lineups and scorers and stuff like that. It's just the score lines. But I'd rather have that stuff in there, and then when the opportunity presents itself, it's a lot easier to go back in there later on to find lineups when you know the date the game was played and what the scoreline was. You just go, right, let's just go find the lineups, and you can narrow your search right down to a few days instead of doing this broad search over 9 months or whatever, trying to find a needle in a haystack. In this case, I mean, I'm making the haystack really, really small. And so that's kind of what I try and do is if there's a way you can chip away and put actual correct data in there, even though it may not be fully completed, but it's complete enough, like a scoreline with the venue and the date and stuff like that. Filling in the next lot of details is a lot easier because you know what you're working with. But yeah, I have been getting better at this over the years of sticking on task for a lot longer. It used to be very, very all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've started to narrow down the way I work on things and get certain serious, important things done first and completed properly before I start moving into other areas. I'm not good at it. I've just got better at it. Still shit at it.
I will admit that I'm still learning to sort of remember that if I have an idea and I think Andrew's the guy for this because of his areas of expertise, I'll just say it to him. And then without realizing it till after I've said it, he's onto it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to manage him properly yet because I'm similar. I just have an idea and I'm like, let's go, let's do it. This is huge. This is awesome. And yeah, we don't know how to kind of reconcile big jobs either.
See, I worked that out about Andrew, and it probably took me a couple of years where you'll say like, man, I wonder how many players have done this, hey? Oh, anyway, I was thinking about blah, blah, blah. And then like about 4 days later, he'll send you a list. Like he did it not long ago. I was talking about, I'm going to put together a list of, I think, I started off with like, say, the top 10 modern day halfbacks.
That's right, yeah.
And then I was like, and I added a couple of current halfbacks towards the end, not of the top 10, but just on the end of the list, to give context that they're not in the list, basically. And Andrew's like, oh, these guys shouldn't be on here. And I was like, yeah, this is, what I've done. And it's like, oh, all right. And then about, I think it was 4 or 5 days later, he's like, here's a list of every single halfback that's played in the modern day. Shit. It's great. I still got to make use of that. So there'll be times where I'll be watching a game, and I know Andrew's watching a game, and I'll think of a question I'd love to ask him. But I know if I ask him that question, he will stop watching the game and start fucking researching. And I'm like, I'm not doing that to him.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, because if it's not you doing it, it's a lot of people on Twitter doing it.
Okay. Well, I'd rather crush any happy time you've got to yourself than some other jerk,
Exactly. And to be honest, a lot of the times I'll research really unique questions over obvious ones.
Yeah.
So if someone says to me, "Oh, who scored the most points in the game?" I'm not going to tell you that. You can do a Google search for that. Go find it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If someone says, "Oh, what's the biggest turnaround between two teams in 2 games in a year?" Like, a team that won one game and then lost the other, and what's the biggest points difference? I go, I'm not just going to give you the biggest one. I'm going to go through and get you a list because I want to know that as well.
Yeah.
And that's what really drives it, isn't it? Like I remember we both spent a fair bit of time on that because we were both like, man, this is going to be interesting to find out the answer.
And you sort of go into it going, for me anyway, I go, right, I know of a bunch of games or seasons where that's going to have happened, where there were some big score lines. So you go, I want to see where those ones rank. And you just come across a bunch of others. You go, oh, yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, I didn't know that was there. That was interesting. And then the end result was, yeah, we knew that was going to happen.
I remember there was a point where, and I can't remember what point of his career it was, but it was like right towards the end for Andy Farrell. And it might have been when they were doing the going away party for him when he went to rugby union. And they were saying, he's the greatest Great Britain captain ever. So I was like, oh, okay. And I started researching all of his results as Great Britain captain, and it was abysmal. The guy's a fucking loser. And it was just, I still to this day, very happy about it.
As you would be.
Yeah.
I want to mention something too that Andrew touched on before, where he talks about people telling him that the BRL records are gone and don't bother, and he's just like, what if we tried? There's such a long history of us doing things like that, because there's an example I can think of is we wanted to document, obviously, all of the players that have played NRL / New South Wales Rugby League since 1908.
Yeah.
And him and Greg Five-Ash have been working for years and years now on compiling the individual match list. But in the meantime, we didn't have that. This was about 10 years ago. We just wanted the list of players to sort of say, these players played at these clubs over these years, right? And we had that information in the encyclopedias, which I'm sure we've all seen. We've got the list of players that played, and it shows you which years they played for which clubs.
Yeah, that
and Andrew
ones.
Yeah. And Andrew and I look at that and go, gee, that'd be handy to be able to put that info onto the website. But it's a lot. This book's like 500 pages long or whatever, Next thing you know, I think you started from the back, maybe, and I started from the front or vice versa, and we just literally poured through the whole book. I built a tool for us to be able to speed run the data, and we just did it page by page until it was done. And that's like, we've done that so many times in different scenarios, where we just go, let's just start.
Yeah, that was insane. Because that all come about the same time too, that we had Alan Whitaker actually contact us and said, like, we didn't approach him. He came to us and said, would you like all the biographies that are written for the encyclopedia? And we're like, oh my God, it's Alan Whitaker.
Yeah, like a couple of fangirls.
Yeah,
like the time we met Ian Heads, we're just like,
oh. Yeah, that was amazing. I think going back to a question you asked before about when you started to realise it was starting to get bigger, I think it was the first time we ever got mentioned as a credit in a book somewhere. I can't remember which book it was either. But we got a credit as being a source in a book.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, wow, we're now, it's more motivation to be absolutely correct, because if people are going to start using us as a reference,
then
you can't be cutting corners. Not that we were, but you got to stay right on top of your game the whole time with everything you do. You can't go take an easy way out on things or assuming stuff or guessing or whatnot here or there. You've got to make sure you're certain of what you're putting on there is absolutely correct. And look, as we're finding out at the moment, there's still stuff on there which has historically been recorded wrong in every single source possible. But as sources and resources become more available and more easily accessible, like newspapers online and things like that, you can start to do a little bit more research and find out that, oh, you know what, this player's name's actually wrong, or it should have been a different player, or these two guys that are separate are actually the same person. And you can start to fine tune and start to correct little bits of details from the past as well, which has been pretty damn awesome to be able to get that stuff correct.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that you have done really well too is I guess the spirit that you put together Rugby League Project in as well is, and I found this when I was doing website stuff going back to, my first website I put together was 1998, and there were people that wanted to act like gatekeepers to things. And you guys have never been like that. You've always been like, we're putting everything out. It's all free. Every last single stat is free. Use it, and we don't ask for anything in return. And because of that, people see that. And so that means that if you get somebody that has some obscure record that they've got their hands on somehow, they're so willing to like give you access to it because of the spirit that you have the website in. Like it's a resource for everyone and it's free. And I think that's I think that's probably the most amazing thing about the whole website.
Well, I have been surprised at how generous people have been over the years because I do always have this thing in the back of my mind that thinks, okay, I know that people have already prepared a lot of this information over the years and they've worked really hard at it, but I just want this to be able to be seen by everybody. And I think back to the days of the 80s and the 90s when you had to be one of those privileged kids that had access to David Middleton's yearbooks to really be able to look into the numbers and stats and know what was going on. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have access to any of those. I mean, I grew up in a little regional town in Queensland called Maryborough, and I just didn't have those sorts of books. I didn't see them on the shelves. I just had to sort of watch what was on TV at the given time. And
you lived in Queensland, didn't have books.
Had nothing. We couldn't read.
Yeah.
So I moved to New South Wales, learned how to read first of all.
Mm-hmm. Running what is nice.
I honestly have this vision where I imagine myself as a kid having access to the internet, how good it would have been.
Yeah.
And to be able to just see that stuff just by going and Googling for it and seeing it right there in front of my eyes without having to pay for it, without having to write a letter to something, you get it sent away and, mail ordered and stuff. Like I just wanted kids to be able to have the info there. And that's a big motivator too. And I'm surprised at how often it's used. Like you'd know how many websites get scraped.
Yeah.
And kind of bots running through it and ripping all the data out of it. We get so much of that. I look at the traffic and go, man, like that number I told you before is actually without all of the bots and scraping that goes on too. That's actual human visitors.
Yeah.
If I included those numbers, it's out of control. But it's I think that's a positive because it's information that I just want everyone to have access to and do whatever they want with.
Yeah, yeah. I think the good thing is, though, that it's not like that has happened and there's been a bunch of clones pop up. Like it's still there's only one place to go for rugby league stats. And I think that's the awesome thing about it, because there is like, I think about it with rugby league writing, because my site's obviously more about writing. And, eventually there's going to be a bunch of clone websites that are just like Chat GPT written articles that are filled in with some stats and things like that. And eventually it's going to get really good. Like it just is, because this stuff's only just starting. And you can see some of the articles that come out and you're like, oh man, this looks like it's Chat GPT, But eventually it's going to get amazing and people are going to be able to just make a whole website and just let the computer run on it, and the next day the website's going to be finished. And I wonder what effect that's going to have on people writing about the game. That hasn't happened with Rugby League Project, and I think because of the changing nature of it, that's probably one of the positives that it's always getting updated and stuff like that. And it's so ingrained now as well. Like you don't go anywhere else; you just go straight there. Everyone knows that.
That's an honour to know that people rate it as highly as they do, and I do feel that and I do see that, but it still blows me away. I mean, I've been it's nearly 20 years old now. Like it's crazy to think about. I mean, I was just thinking of a story that I forgot to mention about when you realise that people are really going to the site. Was I got home from work to a missed call back when I had a landline. This was like in 2009 maybe, and I had a missed call on my landline from someone named Penny, I think it was, at Fairfax Media. And I was just bewildered. I was like, am I involved in something? Like, what's going on? Am I going to get interviewed? I had no idea what to expect. And it turned out she'd been set to by the sports journos because at Fairfax, it was a Friday, at Fairfax, for some reason, they'd installed some internet filter and it registered Rugby League Project as a gambling site and blocked them. And they started flipping out saying, we need access back. Can you get in touch with them and get them to fix their site? Because they didn't realise it was internal to them.
Yeah.
So she'd looked up the domain name and the whois information on the domain name to get my home number. She called me to say, can you fix it? And I just told her, doing the whole IT thing, I was just like, oh, you have to fix your filters.
Yeah.
But that was a moment where I was like, wow, like all these journos are hammering the site. And I mean, it's not even like official info on any level.
Mm.
So
No,
that was another one.
That's an amazing story because the first thing you think of is Like we had a moment not too long, a few years back, where remember Greg Smith, the famed Knights winger.
Oh yes, the American player,
NFL superstar.
Yeah, his legal team got in touch with us to take a comment on their away about him being a failed gridiron player or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, okay, no worries. But it's amazing how far a lot of this stuff reaches, and the content, who it finds and who contacts you with updates or requests and stuff like that. It really is amazing. It's been like nearly all of it's been absolutely positive, which is also another thing that's amazing about it too.
You know.
So, sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to mention that it's pretty amazing going back to that SEO thing, how well it's working. If someone like with a name like Greg Smith can find RLP, imagine how many search results he'd get for his name.
Yeah. I think from memory when I looked it up, I remember typing in Greg Smith and Philadelphia Eagles. And yeah, we were the second entry behind the Philadelphia Eagles' website where they actually had his name listed in there on their past players, alumni, whatever it was page.
That's pretty cool.
I thought that was pretty crazy.
Okay, so have you both got a favourite section of Rugby League Project?
I'll let you go first, Andrew, on that one.
Oh, that's not fair. I didn't want to. Look, I think for me, it's going to be my baby. It's going to be the international stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That took so much time to compile and put together and research. The amount of phone calls, Skype calls, WhatsApp calls, all the types of calls I've made all around the world just to get little bits of details like who was the referee on this game and was this played the day before the date we've got it or the day after or we've got the date right, and chasing up insane little details which for most people mean next to nothing, but it's important for everything we've got on the website. Historians around the world, it's the stuff on the International Rugby League has been so hard to find. And it's been so time consuming, but so rewarding to get it all done because, even to this day, we're the only site that's got, including the International Rugby League, the only site that's got all of that stuff for the men and the women, especially results wise, like just score lines wise, as thorough as it is. Because sadly, there are still games that we'll never ever get the lineups for. There's not many of them, but there are still some there. But it doesn't mean that we stop trying to find them. Because you never know what's out there. Someone might just find a box full of stuff in the attic somewhere, out in the shed somewhere. And, hey, here we go, found some information. Mm-hmm. So, you never stop trying on that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think the international one for me is probably the one that I like the most.
How about for you, Shawn?
My favourite section on the website, LeagueFreak, is as a match page.
Yes.
And it's the time that a young fellow by the name of Nathan Cleary dumped Dylan Brown on his head.
Mm-hmm.
If you're listening, go to that match page on Rugby League Project, and there's a little bit of a special surprise on there you might notice. It's my favourite part of the site.
That's my favourite part of the site too, actually.
There you go. I love it.
So, Shawn, away from Rugby League Project, what is your favourite part of the Fergo and the Freak podcast, and why am I?
I mean, it wouldn't be quite the same without you, Freak. You just give it that je ne sais quoi that it lacks without your delightful crown and that evil look on your face that just shines through in your voice. You don't see it, but you feel it, you know?
Yeah.
The anger.
The endless anger.
The sheer fury. Actually, all he does is just fury.
I think you need to. I do have one criticism of the podcast, as much as I enjoy it, and that is your social person needs to get their shit together.
Yeah.
Because I've left a few comments on recent podcasts on your YouTube posts, and no interaction from you guys on those. So
can I just say, I've got a feeling that the guy who does the social stuff for Fergo and the Freak might also be the same guy that's in charge as the social stuff for Rugby League Project.
Maybe I shouldn't say anything then, eh?
He's been a little bit quiet. I don't know if you've ever had a look at the Rugby League Project page over on Facebook. Tumbleweed.
Yeah, the slight problem for me on that is I left Facebook in 2012.
Smart move. See? That's why he's the boss. He's the smartest one.
Yeah. I am on there. I go on. I put up the episodes that we do on here, or if I've written something, I'll put it on my page. I literally am on there for 30 seconds, log straight off. Like, that's it. That's all I do. I don't look at my feed or anything. It's just nothing to me, Facebook. Not to the people that follow the page, of course, but it's just not something I use. Like, I use Twitter, obviously, but, I only use Twitter when I want to get yelled at.
And MySpace.
Well, MySpace. It's all going down on MySpace.
So the action
ICQ is where it's at.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. No, I do like the way you blokes just let it all out. No prisoners. I don't agree with it always. I don't think I would do the same. If I was to do a podcast, I'd probably overdo it and prepare too much and stress too much about the content and be really nice to everyone, and it'd be boring as shit. But you guys just go, fuck them. Just say whatever we want.
Yeah, but we've got this general theory that people can go get fucked. And I like the way you think, though, where you're like, I know if I was doing a podcast, I'd research and make it good and stuff. And I like how you guys don't even worry about that. You don't worry about making it good. It's good. It's funny.
It's basically my words, let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like,
I think I said we were the most unprofessional, poorly planned podcast out there. Something along those lines.
Yeah, pretty much. But it works. It's great.
Oh, good.
I agree. It does work. It's fun to listen to.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got some questions for you both.
Okay, go for it.
All right. I found these 7 questions on the Twitter feed for the Wigan Way podcast.
Wigan Way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, obviously, we're not going to put this to Wigan players because they're not going to register on any of these. But
so we're just keeping it to first graders then?
Exactly, like proper players.
Yeah.
Question 1. Player that made you fall in love with rugby league?
Oh, that's easy. Andrew Eddinghausen.
The King, Wally.
Yeah, mine was Tim Brasher. I don't know if you knew. First favourite player?
Same thing, E.T.
Alfie Langer.
Mine also was E.T. because he had the same first name as me.
Yeah.
That's pretty shitty, but there you go. A player you always talk about?
Matt Daylight. Well, that's a good one. Who do I always talk about? I talk about Clive Churchill a lot, hey?
So, probably Luai.
Luai, well, he's one of the great modern day players in the game's history. And I love him, and I go to war with him. And anybody that doesn't like him can just fuck off. And he's a good singer and a good dancer. And he won his 3rd straight grand final with one fucking arm. Of course I talk about him a lot, Andrew. What's your problem?
Oh, man, the arrogance.
I'm not sure how I'd answer that one, actually.
Yeah,
because it changes, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Like, as soon as the player retires, you stop talking about him as much.
Cooper Cronk.
I'd have to say Darren Lockyer.
he's the one you talk about the most?
You know what? I think I say that because when you hear conversations where people talk about who's the greatest and, you know, who should be the next immortal, all that kind of stuff, I always think he doesn't get spoken about enough, so it comes to mind and I bring him up.
It's weird when you hear people saying like I think Gordon Tallis during the week, I don't know, it's Gordon Tallis, but during the week he said that Payne Haas and Big Tino could end up being a better front row combination than Lazarus and Webke. And I just wanted to burn the entire world to a cinder.
That's fine. Player I always talk about. I'll probably go with Benji Marshall.
Yeah, definitely him. Or Robbie Farah.
Yeah. Although half the time I talk about Farah, it's usually defending him.
Yes.
So I don't know if that counts.
It counts.
A player that broke your heart when they left your club.
Oh, that's a good one. It's probably still Brandy. When Brandy, and I understand why he left club, and he needed to, and he come back. But I just think it was just it was part of a whole broken-hearted thing that the Penrith region was going through at the time, to be fair. And, I'd say Brandy.
In my case on this one, I'm fortunate that some of my favourite club players for the Cowboys being Paul Bowman and Matt Bowen, stayed with the club to the end. But in more recent times, that answer's easy. Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow.
Yeah.
Ooh, that one hurts.
Yeah. And I knew it would hurt. Even when they stopped naming him last year, I thought, this is going to end badly. And I'm still pissed.
Roughly so.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like, sometimes a player that was in the form he was in, they go to another club and it just doesn't quite work out for them, and it seems like it's the opposite for him. It's almost like Reece Walsh going back to the Broncos, where it's like, how's this going to work out? And it's like they just kill it. They absolutely kill it.
Yeah, for me, it's Tim Brasher, because not only did he leave the club, but he also went to fucking South Sydney.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He went to my club too, and that's usually the subject of many trivia questions that screw people over because no one remembers that.
They also don't remember the ladder that he fell off.
Tell me about the ladder. What are you talking about?
Wasn't he doing some work on the outside of his house? He fell off a ladder and injured his leg or something like that?
Yeah.
Basically ended his rugby league career.
I don't remember that, hey?
There you go.
I know that he ended up being a caddy and lived in Canada, didn't he?
He went over to England and played rugby union for Bath.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he was a caddy on the USPGA. I can't remember who it was with, though. It wasn't a hugely prominent golfer. And then he ran his own pub in Canada for a few years. He's back in Australia now. I don't know what he does now. A player you miss seeing play for your club.
Miss seeing play. Ooh, can I say two?
Go for it.
I think Mark Geyer, and he's probably just shaded by Steve Carter.
They're not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I could repeat my last answer with this one, obviously. But I'll go with something different and say I miss seeing Matt Scott play for the Cowboys.
Really? Matt Scott?
Yeah.
Man, he was consistent as hell, though.
I mean, I miss Matt Bowen too.
I
don't know. Like, I feel like he was just like he was stable.
Yeah,
he was steady, and in a club where you might be 5 minutes away from conceding 30 points, he was just like a safe space for me. You know what I mean?
You know what? When you put it that way, and I think about the mindset of a Cowboys fan, I get that now. I totally get that.
Yeah. So I miss that stability.
Okay. What about you, Andrew?
Pretty much all the players who the club have let go that have actually gone on to be useful, like we all knew they fucking would be. It's a long list. No, who's the most? Probably Benji.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And peak Benji, 2010 Benji.
Yeah.
Here's a random one. A Super League player you love who has never played for your team.
Super League player that I love.
I've got an easy one here. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go first. Let me think.
Okay. Greg Alexander.
You're saying Australian Super League. That doesn't fucking count.
Why not?
All right, let's do Australian Super League then.
Okay, Mal Meninga. Oh, he didn't really play Super League, did he?
No, he didn't play Super League.
Andrew Johns?
You guys say ET.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I never
I'm trying
loved
to think
Andrew
of
Johns.
an English Super League player that I loved.
Martin Afire.
Yeah, Chariots. Yeah. I used to pretend I was him when I was a kid.
Yeah, he's hard to go past. There's a lot of forwards over there that were just off the chain over the years, but it's hard to pick one, isn't it?
I like Barry McDermott too.
I was actually thinking him, yeah.
Yeah, I like him. I think he was actually one of the good players that they had, but
yeah. I think I'd go with Baz McDermott.
Yeah.
He would have been great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And last one, a player from your rival team who you secretly like.
Rivalry? I don't know who the Panthers' rivals would be.
Tigers, obviously.
Okay, I'll pick.
I mean, we own your ass.
Because
you know.
I'll pick a Tigers player. That's playing now.
No, I'm not going to put that much pressure on you.
Okay, because I would have said Appy. Appy fucking had a great season. It's Benji. You know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to go past. If I'm rivaling with the Tigers, I'm going Benji too. But I'd have to say, what's our rival? Broncos?
Probably Broncos.
Obviously. I mean, we've got a pretty good rivalry with the Tigers. Grand final in 2005. Those 2 games this year.
That was just
ridiculous. The wildest 2 games in history. Broncos. I'd have to say, Pat Carrigan's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's hard to go past him.
Yeah, it's easy to sort of cheer him on. He's a good dude. Who's your biggest rival, Andrew? Like your club's rival? Who do you reckon it is? Is it whoever and they expand the comp, whoever they bring in, because you've got to beat them?
It's gonna be. Well, that's the other team that we haven't lost to is the Dolphins. They're a bitch.
Take the Dolphins.
Well, I was going to go with South because of the Balmain thing, but Balmain doesn't really exist anymore.
No, they're dead.
And West,
they're dead.
Where were the Dragons, I guess?
The Dragons and West Tigers?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're both merged slops.
Yeah. they're both the similar levels.
They're sloshing around at the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
I'll go with the Dragons. That just makes it worse. Ben Hunt.
Yeah, that's so easy though.
Yeah. Well, that's all there is to choose from, isn't there?
Yeah. Okay, here's one. Okay, here's a change to that question.
Okay.
Your favourite player from a team you fucking hate. So for Andrew, I know it's South for you.
Yeah. Latrell Mitchell.
Okay. How about you, Shawn?
I hate a few teams.
Okay, who are they?
As a statistician, am I allowed to admit that I hate a team?
Yeah.
I mean, I do.
You know
I have. I've gone all in on South.
You know what? I've got history with Manly fans. I'm going to go back to it. And say Steve Menzies.
Okay.
That's a good story too.
Okay. Is that one of the stories you'll have to tell us after the podcast?
Oh, no, it's just foreign banter.
Okay.
I got in trouble with Manly fans once when I said he shouldn't be considered a great. Just
really?
First grader. They didn't like that.
Yeah.
No, they didn't like that.
Was that like obviously the Manly side of that merged entity, not the North side? I wouldn't have minded it. I'm trying to think of a club that I hate, and I don't know that I hate any club.
Canberra.
No, I don't hate Canberra, but it'd be easy to think that I hate Canberra.
St Helens.
I don't hate St Helens. They do really good for a
Hull.
team.
Hull KR.
No, are you kidding? For what they do, considering like the being on meth, like that's pretty impressive.
You know who League Freak I think would really hate is Lee.
Yes.
Lee, the Leopards.
The Village Club, yeah.
Why Lee?
No, that's just a hunch.
No,
it would be West Wales Raiders.
It's hard to hate something that's dead, Andrew. I think there are teams I look at in the NRL and I can see a positive that they all bring, and then there's some teams that don't bring any positives whatsoever, and they just don't add anything to the competition at all. So yeah, but I don't hate anyone. But the Roosters shouldn't exist. Well, what did the Roosters do for the comp? They don't fucking develop players. They buy everyone else's players. What do they do? What do they add? Nothing.
Well, they've got a new stadium down the road.
That's only oh man, I had to self-censor so. God. I just don't see what they bring to the comp. And you know what? Melbourne Storm's on the clock too. They need to start putting some money into junior development too.
No, they all got one guy this year. That's their first in 7 years.
Yeah, and that's not good. That's not good enough. We all should be contributing to the development of players in the NRL.
Oh, that means you like the Tigers then.
Well,
it's because they don't threaten you.
Andrew, no one threatens the Panthers.
Except the Tigers.
Such confidence.
Except the Tigers.
What do you see for the future of the Panthers? Like, say, for the next 5 years, League Freak.
The more I've been thinking about it, I think that at the moment, I think the Broncos are favourites next year, just because of the Panthers have lost a couple of players. It's going to hurt their depth. Their lower grades were decimated once again, and it's just going to be difficult to keep at that fucking level. Like, it's really hard to win one. To go in and thinking about winning 4 in a row is just outrageous. So I really do think that they'll be one of the better teams next year. I'd still say top 2, but I think the Broncos go in favourites. And I think that it will be dependent on their junior system spitting out top of the line players. And if you look at the average, like, it normally spits out an international of some quality every 2 or 3 seasons. And so if they can just do that, they'll be really, really good for a long while yet. But that's as much as I can say, because I don't know. I've never seen this happen. So, we're already in uncharted territory. And, for them to win 3 is outrageous. It's beyond what anybody should be able to do in the modern era. And so, if you said that they were going to win 5 in a row, that would be outrageous as well. But, so I don't know. I just am happy. As I said to Andrew a couple of weeks ago, after the grand final had just finished, I rang up Andrew. I was very stoic on the phone to him. And then Andrew, did you watch the game? He said, yeah. I said, yeah, I did too. I'll talk to you later. And but I said to him, everything out of rugby league I could ever want as a fan, I have got. And so anything else is just completely, the cherry on top of the cherry sort of thing. So I'm just happy if they just stay relevant, to be honest. If they're just in the race, that'd do me.
Yeah, I don't think they'll bottom out. We've seen clubs just really have the arse fall out of them after a successful run.
Mm.
But I don't see that happening. Everyone talks about the systems. I see it as an organisation where they've just basically they tick the boxes.
Yeah.
You talk about what other clubs that are struggling need to do, and they're just doing it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and they've got I mean, so many of their keys are locked in. Like they've got, I know people say that the Broncos have very good front row partnership. Penrith has the best one. And if there's anybody that questions that, just look what they did, you know. So they've got their front rows locked in. They've got Nathan Cleary locked in. They've got Dylan Edwards locked in. Tungor is locked in. To'o's locked in. There's so many of these players that, you know, they're not about to leave. They're locked in for a long time. And I think it's just the depth part is a worry for me. And, you know, rightfully, every other club looked at what Penrith were doing in their lower grades and said, we've just got to grab what we can while we can. And you had all these young players and fringe first graders and stuff that looked at the first grade team and they were like, I've got to go elsewhere for my opportunity. And that's cool. That's what happens, you know. But it did hurt their lower grades, and that's fine. And so I think it'll be the next couple of years you'll want to see youngsters come through and really show that they can get the job done. And if they can do that, I mean, like, you know, we've won 2 straight grand finals and then we have the rookie of the year the following year. Like, that's ridiculous. If that sort of thing continues, man, I'm not going to survive it.
It's unprecedented, isn't it? And it's impossible to see it lasting because of the unlikely nature of it having gone this far.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. That's exactly it. You know, how many times we've watched a team finally win a grand final and then you're like, man, they finally got there and now they're losing 5 players and that's it. That was their shot. And then to win
premiership window.
Yeah, the premiership, famous premiership window. Like, is it, you know, probably the better question is how long is Penrith's premiership window if you looked at it? I mean, it's at least the next 3 years, right? But like something crazy would have to happen if it was cut shorter than 3 years from what we've seen already.
You'd have to see them lose a lot of talent as long as they've got Cleary to be out of that window, as you call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can keep 3 of your 4 spine players together for a long period of time, you usually are going to be successful for, you know, a fairly long period of time as well. I know we were a bit concerned at the start of the year about losing Coruscant, how Penrith would go. And they weren't as impressive this year as they were in the past 2 seasons, but they were still more than good enough, obviously, to go all the way, get the minor premiership and the premiership again. But I don't know, is that hooker issue going to be a problem for them next year as well? They didn't really solve it this year.
No, they didn't. And I think it is something that because it's, you know, it's a relief valve on their halves. If you've got a hooker that can make some yardage out of dummy half is a good kicking game, and we just don't have that. You know, Mitch Kenny's a very good defender, and he got the job done. You know, you got to give him credit there. But, you know, if you could just have somebody in there that could, you know, just get a damage and run here or there, or, you know, make the defence so that they can't really set themselves against our forward pack, that'd be great. And I think the other thing about Penrith is, like, you look at all of the things they do right, and there seems to be something else on top of that. And I don't know what it is, but, like, to see what they did in that grand final was, I mean, that was like a dream come true. And you don't normally see many teams at any level being able to do that sort of thing. And, you know, there's something pretty special about some of these players. And, like, Ivan Cleary was talking about it in the speech that he gave at the Panthers awards night. And he was talking about how, like, as soon as these players can get back to training, they want to be back at training because they just love training so much. And just have that sort of environment around the club is really a different thing. And I'm sure there are other clubs where that happens too. But to have that on top of the talent and on top of the junior base and on top of the stability that they've got, like, all of that coming together and then having that attitude about enjoying your footy so much, you end up with this, like, real special combination of players and at the right place at the right time. And, man, it's crazy. I can't believe that they're my team and they've done that. Like, normally I'm watching other teams do this sort of shit.
So am I.
Oh, shit.
I will underscore what you mentioned about your front row. It's just so undeniable. I mean, there was the stat from the grand final that I heard about with Leota. Is it Leota or Leota?
I'd say Leota, hey.
Yeah, because there's only one T. Leota and Fisher Harris on the field. Penrith won 26-0, which really sums it up. And I made a comment during the game. So Brisbane lose the ball with that lead, and Penrith get it. Cleary makes that break, and who's there? Moses Leota is the only one backing him up in that part of the game, was so clutch. And then the runs he did after that, after the kickoff, to really just cement their position, I just thought Leota was phenomenal.
Yeah, he's like James Fisher-Harris is probably the higher profile of the two, but Leota is just an absolute machine. And he's the one that's more likely to absolutely destroy an opposition by, like I remember when we were playing against Parramatta in the grand final last year, and he was hitting Parramatta players so fucking hard that the whole team started to panic because they weren't getting anywhere. He's just devastating. He's absolutely devastating with the ball and without the ball. And it's crazy to think that beside him, we've got a guy who's just like a machine as well. Like if you had to make a modern day front row, you'd probably have these two sorts of players, but they'd probably be bigger. Maybe not bigger than Leota because he's fucking a giant himself. But James Fisher-Harris isn't a giant player, and yet you lose nothing from him not having that size because he's just so good. It's absolutely crazy. Like I was actually watching New Zealand on the weekend, and I'm thinking like how it's Fisher-Harris and Leota is their front rows, and how crazy it is for an entire nation to have them two as their front rows.
Yeah.
I was going to say, well, speaking of, let's get into it. New Zealand. Tight win over Samoa there on the weekend.
Yeah, they smashed Samoa. Watched this game. New Zealand looked really good, really sharp. Probably as good as I've seen New Zealand jump out of the blocks in internationals. Normally they take a few games to warm up. Samoa looked really bad, lots of bad mistakes. It was a little bit similar to their game against Australia, but they didn't have that fight back in them, unfortunately. And it was a really disappointing match, to be honest with you. And they'll be disappointed with what they've done. I know they were missing some key players, but they should have done better than that. Anyone else watching them games?
I was at work, so I didn't see shit.
Yep.
And I was legitimately going to sit down and watch some highlights today, and then I had something to do with family here, and I got back in, and I got sidetracked by some research I was doing. I forgot how far I went over that, and I went, I've got to press record now. Whoops.
That's all good.
Yeah, I was going to say there's probably like that silence you just heard between Andrew and I, aside from the fact that we weren't able to watch the game live, unfortunately, probably is also a bit of a commentary on the game itself. It was a bit of a forgettable one because I watched the mini, as they call it, so not the highlights, but not the full game either. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see much from Samoa.
Yeah,
even in defence.
It was a rough performance, and it just I did a tweet a couple of days ago, maybe yesterday, where like that's the problem for international rugby league is that when you tune in, the chance that both teams are going to be really set and turn up for a game is pretty low. More often than not, if you watch an international game, you're going to be disappointed by one of the teams and how they perform. And that's the big problem holding international rugby league back right now.
Well, the thing that really jumped out at me about this game was New Zealand's hooker was Kieran Foran. What happened there?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that they just won him out there. Hey, I heard a quote by Michael Maguire during the week, and he said, like, Kieran Foran would do absolutely anything to play for New Zealand. And that really stuck with me because there's a lot of really good committed players in that Kiwis team. But there's something about Foran when he's in that camp that it really stands out for Maguire. So maybe it was just having him out there and having him in the mix, you know.
It was a bit weird they actually named him on the bench to start with, because it's not like you're going to take Dylan Brown or Jerome Hughes off just for whatever. And they wouldn't have gone into this game thinking they were going to put 50 on Samoa either.
No.
They'd have gone into this thinking it was going to be a lot tighter. So why would you carry your spare half on the bench? Like, surely you put an extra forward on there. But worked out in his favour in the end. I know they say use Fa'amanu Brown as a second rower, I guess.
It's going to be interesting to see how they match up against Australia, because Australia, you know, they've had the week off, got a good look at New Zealand now. I'm hoping it's just a really good test match. Hey, I'd hate for it to be disappointing. I'm sick of disappointing test matches.
Yeah, you want to see something close happen.
Yeah.
They can't all be bangers freak.
This is true. Oh, Malta and Chile, 30-22 to Malta there. Did you check that one out?
No, I did not.
Oh, mate, it was just down the road from you.
Where at?
Sylvania.
Fuck off down the road. Take me a fucking hour and a half to get there, you bastard.
Everything's down the road. Haven't you been reading what the journalists say?
Oh, no, right.
It's all just down the road. It's like you just go from one country town to the other. It's just down the road, mate. Just go past the cow on the corner and you'll find that stadium.
Costs $45 in tolls.
That's fucking true. Fiji beat Cook Islands by 4 points, 22-18.
I watched a little bit of this game. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the end of it, which was apparently really, really good.
From what I can tell you, I was going to say, from what I can tell you, it looks like Cook Islands were right in this game right until the end, which is great for them and a bit of a worry for Fiji.
Yeah, the Cook Islands, we've talked about them. They punch way above their weight compared to everyone else. And it was a try by the Penrith Panthers to Ruva that ended the game. So that was pretty cool to see him get that moment playing for Fiji. He really deserves it.
Dream Buller played really well from what I saw. And I will add that Cook Islands had, I think, one of the biggest international halves pairings I've ever seen. Brad Takarangi and Easton Masters, like huge units. But Masters was unbelievable. He was just like, my impression watching what I saw of that game was he got given the number 7 jersey, but didn't really know what to do with it other than just do everything. And he was so committed. He was just in every play and trying his guts out.
It was just his third game in his career in the halves and the first time in the halfback.
Wow. I remember calling him in the lower grades, and he just looked like an NRL player to everyone else. Just bigger, stronger, more skillful. And I was really surprised he didn't kick on and become a real regular, really good NRL player. So it was cool to see him playing well for the Cook Islands. And Brad Takarangi, I mean, how old is he? He's like 35 now, something like that.
35 next year.
There you go. How good am I with ages? I'm so good with them ages. Yeah, it's just great to see him running around, and he does little things here and there that like he has no right to do for the Cook Islands, and it works.
Now, also over in England, the English side beat Tonga 22-18.
Yeah, well, they had the best 14 Englishmen on the field, Andrew. Hey.
The best 14?
Yeah. So the first half, right? Really good half of footy, really enjoyable. You could see that Tonga was short of a little bit of a run. England played very well. They both played really well, really enjoyable. Second half, big change. Big change. Referee took over, and it was real shame. Ruined the game and really made it so that England had as much go their way as possible. I'm not saying the referee did that. I'm saying that's the just what happened in the game. And, you know, Tonga now knows that, well, they have a run under their belt, which is great. And they know what they're up against now to try and have to win in England. They need to be very vocal about the refereeing going into the next two games, because it was really fucking outrageous. And I even had English fans tweeting me last night saying, this is crazy what's going on. Like, completely different second half. And that's just not good enough at international level.
Yeah, I feel like this series is such an important series in the history of Tongan Rugby League, because you've always had these round robin type of competitions with the Pacific nations over the years, and it's a different feel, I think, from an organisational sense than having a specific committed, dedicated tour where you go and play internationals against one team in a series. And this is a great example of how they navigate their way through this situation with the refereeing standards that you just pointed out. Like, they've got to manage that from an organisational point of view, and it's a great part of their, I don't know, growing up. Like, it feels like they're becoming a real test nation as we speak.
Yeah,
with this series, and I think they were great. I think they've got an unbelievable team. Like, you look at their team sheet, and it just looks spectacular. So they'll take it to England in game 2, I'm sure.
Yeah, I still think they'll win the series. But they know now what they've got to do to win, and it's not just to beat England fair and square, I dare say. There were some good plays in the English team, like Thomas Burgess was fantastic. He was my man of the match. When he was on the field, he was trying to stem the tide against the Tongan forwards all on his own. Mikey Lewis was fantastic. For, Adam Fanua-Blake, he was great. What's the young fullback for England? God damn it, I forget his name.
Wellesby, I was going to mention him.
Okay,
too.
Wellesby, yeah. Now, there's a lot said about Wellesby, and I've been asked so many times what I think about Wellesby, and I've said, just let me see him, let me watch him. I'm willing to say right now, he's not a fullback. He is not a fullback. His fullback positioning and awareness defensively as a fullback is it's just so far below standard. It's crazy. I think for the best thing for his career right now, and it won't happen, but I think the best thing would be for them to throw him in the centres for a little while, see if he's got the ability to read defensively in the centres. I think size-wise he could probably handle it, get him defending in that front line, and then have it with an eye on him ending up as a 5'8" maybe. But as a fullback, he's just not there defensively whatsoever. And, so that's what I've held off saying anything about him. But, that's how I feel about him now, hey?
Yeah, he strikes me as the sort of player that is in his position because he can do those backline sweep plays pretty well. He knows how to pick his man out. But, you're right. You need to be able to do all the work as a fullback, and there's definitely some lapses there.
Yeah, he's a little bit like Sam Tompkins in that he does have an ability for ball playing, but he's defensively he's gone. He's not there at all. And you can get by in Super League at one of the top 3 clubs if you're not very good defensively. But I saw people saying, the Bulldogs should sign him and stuff like this. And it's like, man, he would last a month at fullback in the NRL and that would be it. Because he's just, at some points he was on a completely opposite side of the field to what he should have been defensively. And look, he can work on that. But, at the age that he is, he should be much further along. And so that's why I question whether he's actually a fullback. That's what I would do. I'd move him into the centres. But as I said, they won't do that, which is fine.
I'm going to ask now, has there been any other news going on in the game of rugby league? I asked this because I've not been paying too much attention. I'm putting all of the onus on you, Freaky, right now.
I'm trying to think. I can't think of any massive news that's come out of rugby league. Huh?
Have you been singing your national anthems?
No, I haven't. What is anyone going to do about it?
How dare you?
Oh, well, we've crossed that one off. Tick that box.
Yeah.
The other thing I have heard about was over in England, IMG expected to reveal their grading scores this week.
Oh, that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, it's not going to impact the competition, like who gets relegated and whatnot for next season, but it will be used for the season afterwards, so the end of next year, which means all the teams are going to find out what their grading mark is and where they need to work and what they need to do. I did find a list of how the system will work. So the grades are based on 5 criteria, and you get 5 points for each one. Fandom, performance, finances, stadium, which is actually 3 points, and catchment is 2 points. So it's a maximum of 20 points. You get a grade of A if you score 15 points or more, a grade of B if it's between 7.5 and 14 points, and grade C if it's less than 7.5 points. And grade A teams are in Super League, grade B teams are in Championship, and grade C is in League One.
It's going to be interesting to see what areas of their criteria can be played with by the clubs, hey? Because finances are so difficult because you've got club chairmen over there that will pour money into the club when they need it. So how do you measure that? Like if a club is completely financially unsustainable, but the chairman just pours money in when they need it, how do they grade something like that compared to a team like, and I talked about them this week, the Salford Red Devils, who have been having to sell players this week to make sure they don't fall into a financial black hole. And they're managing their finances without an owner tipping money in. So how do you balance those sorts of things out? That's going to be interesting. A stadium is very easy because it's a facility. You can look at it. You know, it's obviously about capacity and facilities that you've got there that are available to patrons. But, you know, something like, you know, you can play with finances. I know that there's a component there for social media and things like that where you can buy social media followers. Like, how do they make sure teams aren't doing that?
Just follow Donald Trump. You'll be fine.
Does he buy them? He's not
I don't know. But if you follow him, I dare say there'd be an awful lot of those weirdos that would just trickle along behind him, follow everything he follows.
Don't you know, though, Freak, that Elon Musk is cleaning Twitter up? That's why he bought it. So there's no more bots.
Yeah, I've noticed the no more bots things, hey? It's been, every time I'll post something and it's immediately liked by somebody that's selling crypto. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I like the fact the bots have been replaced by ads for stuff I don't need.
Yeah,
that's been great. Thanks, Elon. But yeah, that's basically it there. I'm curious as to why they still think it is financially viable to have 3 grades. Why not have Super League with, you know, a third of the teams and everybody else just goes into second division? Isn't it costing more money to have 3 grades?
I think the problem that they have is that you've really only got about 6 teams that can really survive in Super League, all right? And then you've got a bunch of teams that barely hold on. And then in the next division down, you've got a couple of teams that might be able to get to a position where they can barely hold on. And then the teams below that are trying to catch up to those teams. It's like...
True, but I mean, what they've got to have is all those teams that are at the bottom end of League One.
Yeah.
They've got to be playing against teams that are in Championship on a regular basis in order to get them up to that level. It'll take time and all that, of course. But the other thing you could do is, instead of having these stupidly long fucking seasons for no reason, have a big Championship competition where there might be 28 teams. They just play one game against each other. Not 2 or 3. Don't have 2 different fucking cups going on at the same time. You've got the 1895 Cup and the Challenge Cup. And what are they trying to do? Kill these players? And kill the clubs? They make them play so many games, and each game it's not a profit each game. There's a lot of expense with every game. So find a way to cut it down so they've got a much shorter season. Look, 28 teams is far too many anyway for that division. They should probably have 20 maximum. Then every team's just playing 19 games. They can play the Challenge Cup. You don't need the other one. It's stupid. And, then you're getting back to the teams playing maybe at most 25 games in a season, which is on par with what the NRL's doing.
Yeah.
Instead of having these part-time professionals playing, near 30-odd games every year. It's stupid.
It's pretty crazy. Another idea I saw put forward was that they split into a couple of divisions in England. So you've got basically, it'd almost be Yorkshire and Lancashire, and it would cut down on travel costs for them, because once you're at that level, like, it sounds silly, but the travel costs just within England something they've got to consider. It sounds weird, but like, that's
it's so huge.
I know, right?
Remember they were complaining about second division teams or third division teams having to travel all the way to the southern part of England for that new team they brought in?
Was it when they brought in like Bristol or something like that?
I can't remember what's the name of them. Cornwall.
Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to drive all the way to Cornwall.
Still, it's not like that's for these teams at that level. Like, that's a real consideration that they have, and I think anything you can do to lower costs is good. But then you've got to weigh it up about like what happens if one of these divisions ends up being so obviously stronger than the other one. All of a sudden, you've got three divisions again. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I mean, the thing that got me the most about the whinging about Cornwall, though, is that there was more complaining about English fans having to go to Cornwall than about any of the travel that might have been required when the Toronto Wolfpack were in the competitions.
Yeah.
Certainly in another country.
They're not complaining about the travel. They're just complaining about where they have to go.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have to go to Cornwall. You go to France.
The thing is, like, if you
go to Wales.
If you don't want to travel, don't fucking travel.
No, you got to whinge about it instead.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about this IMG proposal. Is there any mention that you've heard or seen of mergers? Because I know that was a real poison when the Super League thing happened in England back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Not at this stage that I'm aware of. I think what they'd be looking at is something a bit more brutal. Whereas if you don't look like you're capable of surviving moving forward, then bye. They'll probably they won't cut you, but they'll probably just, instead of axing the club completely, they'll move you down to the amateur leagues, which a lot of clubs would see that as a demotion you never get back from, and they would just leave anyway, kind of like what Newcastle did.
Yeah, because, there are some obvious mergers you could do there, but, we saw when the, Swinton Lions wanted to change to the Manchester Lions.
Oh.
And some of their fans just lost their minds over that. And so the club was like, fine, all right, we'll be Swinton. We'll just stay here. And, it's very weird the way that they look at their teams over there. And I understand no one wants to see their team, merge or change their name or stuff like that. But if it's between that and, just being stuck, you'd rather them try something.
Yeah, but they're not at the moment.
No.
Is that it for the news? I take it there's not much else going on.
Yeah, it was a really quiet week. It was more about the internationals and stuff like that. So, which is good. You get to this point of the year. If there's news that comes out at this point of the year and it's NRL related, it's normally not great.
No, that's true. That's true. So now I get to ask a question I haven't asked for a while.
Okay.
Have we got any emails?
We do.
We do?
We do. All right. So the subject for this one's from Lightning McQueanbean.
I've heard of this bloke. He got the shits at me once because I went to Queanbeyan one day and I didn't fucking tell him.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Not that I knew how to.
A lot of people go to Queanbeyan and don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Guilty.
I went there and took a photo of, was it Seaford Oval, and then left.
Oh, really? I ate fried chicken there once.
Oh, Seaford Oval is the only ground, I believe, where the Balmain Tigers never lost a game.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I had to get a photo of that. Something positive from the game's history.
There's been plenty of positives in the Tigers' history.
Let's move on before we start another rant.
You knew where I was going. Okay, so this is from Lightning McQueen. It's subject episode 500. Message. G'day, cunts. This does it KH, so it's not swearing.
Yeah.
Don't say cunt on here. No. Congratulations on making it to 500 episodes of your amazing podcast. What a fantastic milestone. I've been listening since around episode 170 from memory and loved every minute of it. You both offer brilliant analysis and understanding of all facets of the game and completions, probably means competitions, although we do talk about completions a lot, don't we, Andrew?
I mentioned it once.
Yeah. I finished a completion during the grand final. And I, like other listeners, I'm sure, have learned so much from you both, including blocking all mainstream media except the mole. That guy is a legend. Thank you, Andrew, LeagueFreak, and all your awesome guests, both regular and one-offs. I'm super proud to be a small part of this amazing journey. I still smile when I hear the intro music at the start of every episode. I'm looking forward to another 500-plus episode. Love you, cunts. Bob, Lightning McQueen, Harvey. P.S. Fuck Manly.
That all sounds accurate.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that one.
Thanks for that, Bob.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really nice email to get, eh?
That's next time I actually have a question off the back of that. Yeah. Where did the music come from? Is there a story behind it?
Yeah, freaky. I don't even know this music.
It was made for us, wasn't it? Wasn't it Lightning McQueen sent it in to us? Because we had, what was our original? We didn't have one.
No.
Did
some sponsor thing for a while.
Yeah, we did some sponsorship stuff, and I think it was Lightning McQueen put it together from memory. I'm sure
from episode 187.
Yeah, probably. And yeah, so because I know I didn't put it together, and I know Andrew didn't put it together.
No, because I don't play like instruments with keys.
I think
a bit of mystery.
I feel like maybe we tried to put one together, and it was okay, and then we got sent that one, and it was like, oh, this is way better, and we used that.
Yeah.
Sure, that's how it worked.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is from Sam Reville, who's been a long time follower of mine.
He's a Cowboys fan, isn't he?
I can't remember, to be honest. I can't remember. He's always liking our tweets and stuff about the podcast.
Yeah, Sam's a good bloke.
Yeah. And the subject is episode 500 question. Hi, F and F. Congratulations on 500 episodes. You host the best rugby league podcast found anywhere. Informative and brutally honest. I'd like to ask for your thoughts on pre-season rugby league. He's talking about the World Club Challenge. Are you fine with the new and current pre-season challenge tournament? Would you like to see the Nines return or something else? Looking forward to the next 500. Thank you, Sam Reville. I hope I'm saying his name right, hey? Because I want to say
Reville. Too bad. He's got to change it to what you say now.
But it's not Reville. I'm sure it's Reveal. I'm sure it's Reveal.
Is he talking about the tournament that they had this year?
Yeah.
I fucking hated it. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's actually, it is up there with the dumb ideas that England comes up with in order to have a final system. I hated it so much. It's so stupid. It's pointless. Fuck it off.
You know what's funny? I think I realised that it's literally just trials, right? No one's questioning that, and it's obvious to everyone. Yeah. But by wrapping this framework of a competition around it, suddenly makes it seem like it's more interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that was the concept behind it, yeah.
But nothing changes about the way that teams use it.
Well, no, so because and some teams played 2 games, some played 3.
Yeah.
And some of them were against teams like I think the Broncos played against Wynnum Manly or something like that in one of them.
Yep. Yeah, Penrith played a semi-professional team as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, how are you trying to turn this into a competition?
Your opponents.
Well, it's nuts. You can't. How are you going to make it a competition where one team can play 1 game, one team will play 3 games? What's the purpose? Like, if you're going to win a Manly in there, they might as well play 3 games like everybody else.
Yeah.
And then why would you have them playing 3 games against NRL sides? Why would you get a team from England involved in it for 1 game?
They did.
It's dumb.
They were involved in it.
It's the dumbest garbage ever. And the point system was moronic. I hated the whole thing. It was stupid.
I am like Andrew. It makes me physically angry. The other thing is only a fuckwit celebrates getting a trophy in February. So yeah, and
if the Tigers got one in February, I'd be happy.
The West Tigers didn't you just win the Nines one year or the Sevens? I think it was still the Sevens.
The Nines. We got the Nines in 2004.
Oh, did you?
And I instantly thought this is the last trophy my club will ever win.
Who was in that Nines team? Were there some of the great names in that Nines team?
No idea. Bengalia, I think, was one of them. That's about all I remember.
Went to high school with him.
Benji, Farah.
That would have been pre-Benji nearly, wouldn't it? Oh, no, he was 03.
Yeah.
He started, yeah.
I don't know if Benji was playing or whether he was injured. I can't remember.
Shoulders would have been fucked by then, eh?
Who else was there?
That Daniel Fitzhenry areas?
Yeah, he would have been in there.
Daniel
side.
Daniel Fitzhenry era was a good one, hey?
Well, it's more successful than the current one.
Would you rather that era or the fucking, what's his name?
Graviani.
He was a handy player.
He was. I ditched him. Who else would we have? I don't want to go down this path. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah, we end up going for 3 hours sudden, and it always ends in you going, "Fucking bored." Like, good though.
I'm trying not to mention those two dickheads for at least one episode, and this important one. So we'll move on. I think I mentioned one before, but not the other.
Somewhere out there, he's holding up a melon, trying to work out if it's ripe or not. His little hat.
Yeah. Trying on his hats. The cosplay expert.
So, what do you think of the North Queensland Cowboys next year? Because they had a real disappointing year this year. Like they should have.
It's hard to say. I see my understanding from a sort of outside perspective looking in, because you don't really necessarily know what's going on in the club between the players and the coaching staff and all that stuff that happens. But last year we went gangbusters on the back of Todd Payton flogged them during the off season, right? Mm-hmm. And got him into shape. Then this year he decided, well, I don't want to overdo it, so he eased off, and then they basically turned into powder puffs in defence again. So I don't know what his plans are, but it seems like this is kind of the problem that we have. We need to instill some sort of defensive starch, which is not Cowboys like. So we need to create a culture that instills that sort of starch and then go from there. Obviously, the defence is the starting point.
Yeah.
So it depends on how that goes. The rest is like, we can score points. Not a problem. I mean, look at the Tigers. Like, fucking hell. We can roll. We just don't know how to stop them.
Look at the Tigers.
Yep. 100%.
That was a bad one.
I think that with the Cowboys, it feels like they need like a couple of just tackling machine back rollers. I feel like they've got too many big dudes who are immobile, and they just need like some dudes that can get through work. I feel like that's what they're missing.
Yeah, could use a Liam Martin, eh?
That'd be handy. That'd be real handy.
Mm. So, I don't know. We could either end up 3rd or 12th.
That's the best summation you'll ever get out of a Cowboys season. It's going to be one or the other. There's no middle. They don't finish 8th.
Yeah.
Would they have
12? Would
they have the widest, like between their highest point and their lowest point going into next year? Because I reckon the Roosters could do the same thing. Hey, where if it all works out for them, they could be pretty high, but they could also be really low if it works out for the other way too.
I think Newcastle as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
I reckon they overachieved a bit this year.
Yeah, so do I. They went on that win and run.
Yeah.
Against no one.
Oh, you know who else? The Sharks.
They're starting to get in that area. Like they always manage to sort of somehow cling on and make it to the finals, but they seem to be going, I wouldn't say backwards, but they're coming back to the field that's in the bottom half because those teams below them are getting better at a faster rate than the Sharks are. So they're starting to come back to that field a bit too much. And Theirs is just a bit of a mess. Like for
What about
the start of the season, you could see that they were trying something different in the defensive structure, which didn't work. So they canned it and went back to what did work. But when they did that, they then went and changed their attack structure to do something different, which then stopped them from scoring points. So then they changed that. And by the time they did all that fucking around, they were struggling to keep in the 8. And I don't know why they were doing all of that at all. Like, they were scoring points comfortably the year before. But why change that? But that's what they were doing. Because their defensive structure became an absolute mess by the end of the season. They didn't know what they were doing at the end. They had half the team going left, the other half standing still, and the other part's going right. And they're not working as one cohesive unit like they used to. They were sort of just in these little blocks everywhere.
Yeah.
And if teams were smart enough and ran at a good, you have one person on an angled run and one on a straight run, bam, there's fucking gaps between the two blocks. And no one's coming across in cover defense. And that's how they were scoring points against them. It's crazy to watch. I'm looking and going, you keep this crap up, the Tigers will put points on you.
Yeah, I guess Fitzgibbon's on the clock next year, hey, because, he had his honeymoon season and then this season's been, pretty average. I feel as though he has this idea of what he wants his team to be, but he doesn't necessarily have the personnel to pull it off. I think that's the problem. And that's part of coaching. Like, that's a really important, and I think back to Chris Anderson had this problem towards the end of his career where he wanted to put something in place that just didn't work with the personnel he had. And when you can't accept that, that's a problem, with your coaching. So that's the way I was looking at the Sharks, because I know a lot of people were saying that they felt the Sharks would be pretty good, and I just never saw them as any sort of threat for the premiership for multiple teams, So, yeah, Fitzgibbon's going to have to do a job next year. I'll tell you another one I think could go one way or the other, depending on how things go, are the Canberra Raiders. Like, you could convince me that they have things go their way and finish maybe, 4th place. And obviously they bow out straight sets. So they're the Raiders. But I could also see where it falls apart and they end up 15th.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll be okay.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Depends on if they keep Ricky. Like, he's both their worst enemy and their best friend at the moment.
He is a bit. I think moving Whiten on is actually going to help them in more ways than people might realise. Because I don't think he properly fit into that 5/8 role that Ricky Stewart wanted. I think Ricky Stewart wanted Laurie Daly there. I mean, we all do, but he works with what he knew would work for him. That's why he never gets satisfied with a halfback, because none of them do what he knows what he could do. So he kind of wants this really genuine X factor at 5/8, but Whiten just didn't quite work in that role. Because I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to South and they immediately slot him in at the centres.
Yeah, I think, 100%. And I think the thing too was with Whiten, you would hear commentators saying, Whiten, he's really leading this team. And it's like, have you watched the fucking Canberra Raiders in 18 months? Because Whiten's been shit. So, yeah, I agree with you. He's addition by subtraction.
And obviously Croker's left. I mean, that's a negative for him. That's going to hurt.
It'll just be no different, really.
I was just tossing up a light one there for you.
Croker's not out there. Yeah,
just lobbing one up. Yeah. Free hit.
Yeah.
As for the Tigers, spoon. Right. What else is there?
Do you reckon that they'll get the spoon though?
Yep.
Yeah, I was trying to make it some sort of suspense. Of course they will.
That's a no-brainer.
But they're building something. That's the important thing.
Another spoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What round does Benji Marshall get axed?
They won't axe him. What they'll do is they'll say, we don't want you to hurt your legacy. Yeah. So if you would like to leave, we will let you do that. And you could cite personal reasons if you want. Your dog died or something. And we'll do a sub story, how tough has Benji. He's doing this despite all the pain and stuff he's going on. We're going to have to let him go because we can't do this to this poor fella. It'll be something like that. There'll be a sob story to let him go so he doesn't damage his reputation. They'll put Farah in there so they can throw him under the bus because he's used to it.
I'm calling round 18. We start hearing out of the media, oh, John Morris comes back.
There's no way they'll wait till round 18.
I'm guessing, yeah, I think Sean's right. It'll be earlier than that, mid-season.
You reckon?
Round 10 or 11.
You reckon Scott Fulton won't be able to stop himself, eh?
Nah, it's the Manly in him.
Isn't it weird that Manly and the West Tigers are trading players like either of them are good?
Thankfully, Manly's done the worst in that regard because the Tigers haven't really bought that many players. Because apparently the squad they got is perfectly fine.
Yes.
Don't upgrade that shit. It's fine.
It's
fine.
But
Manly's been getting a ton of Tigers players for some reason.
It's really weird.
And, Manly's still currently trying to lock down Aaron Woods for next year as well, apparently.
Are they?
Yeah.
Wow.
Legitimately they are. They've got a space free for him in their roster and they're not trying to fill it with anybody else.
Wow. Did you see the Seagulls' new logo that they put out during the week?
Yeah, it reminded me of Sonic the Hedgehog.
It's nice. I haven't seen it.
It's just okay.
I think another person said it looked like the head of Lisa Simpson when she was an adult.
Yeah, it did. Yep. When she was did she become the president?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen it now?
That. Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
It's not.
I can see the Sonic.
It looks also a bit like the headwear that Rooster Man wore.
The Rooster Man. Who's the Rooster Man?
Yeah, the mad Roosters fan who wears that weird get up on his head when he goes. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. It just looks like it's not mean or anything. It just looks like it's distressed, like you've just kicked it in the dick.
You know what it gives me vibes of? It's like they've gone to the NFL logo designers and said, "Can you just make us an NFL logo?"
Yeah. Can you take the Philadelphia Eagles logo but make it a sea eagle?
Yeah, make it maroonish.
And somebody said, like, okay, I've got this idea. I've got to infill the colours. And they're like, no, don't infill.
That's perfect. That. Yeah, as soon as you start doing the stuff, it costs more money. We'll just take it as it is.
It's always cool when you hear about how these simplified logos all these companies and stuff are doing, and it ends up costing like $300,000 to design it. It's like, mate, you could go into Vistaprint and done that.
It's I think it looks worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very manly. It's like a seagull with all the colour drained from it.
Yeah, I can see that actually. It's definitely a masculine bird, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, can we make it look mean and stuff? And it's like, I can try.
They've taken a seagull and they've put LeagueFreak's eyes on it.
There you go.
That's what they've done. They've gone, right, how can we make this thing look genuinely, permanently angry? What's the most permanently angry thing we know of? It's LeagueFreak. Let's put his eyes on it.
Oh, shit. That's funny.
It just needs a gold tooth. I know birds don't have teeth, but they've got to find a way to incorporate that in there somewhere.
They should. I once I remember when the Panthers were changing their logos, and I made a Panthers logo that was basically like the panther with a crown and a gold tooth on it. I thought that was pretty funny. It's on my website somewhere. I don't know where.
That'd be salfordreds.com.
There's one of them.
Yeah, it's one of them.
Salford City Reds, actually, .co.uk.
Is that it?
No, it's Salford Red Devils.
Salford Red Devils.
Yeah.
Let's call it Manchester Red Devils.
You should, actually, that's a website you should go and buy, is Manchester Red Devils.
I bet that's already a website, 100%, because of the soccer team.
Well, let's just type it into our little Google machine, shall we?
Look it up. I'm not buying another website, Andrew. You keep trying.
This site can't be reached.
No, I'm not buying it.
Right, well, Freaky's got his next half hour sorted out.
No.
You're just going to go and get the plastic out.
Do you know what it's like during the middle of the year? And it's always middle of the year because that's when we record. And it's like I get smashed with one website renewal after another, and I'm just over it.
Just buy some more crypto and cover it.
I've got too many. I got too many.
Is it 10?
Or probably not 10.
Oh, well, we'll get to 10. You can make a round number.
I reckon it's about 8. No, how about you pay for it and it can be a round number? How about that?
I might buy one when we get to the 1,000th episode.
You should. What would you buy?
LeagueFreak.co.uk.
I think I am that one.
There'll be a League Freak one out there somewhere.
Yeah. You buy like the League Freak one, but for like Kazakhstan or something.
Oh, no, .co.uk is available. You can buy that one as well. That'll get you to 10.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to start paying fucking pounds for my website addresses. That's a good idea.
I'll get that and make it redirect to the Lee Leopard's website. To their shop. To their shop, actually.
That'd be pretty funny, actually.
Merchandise.
That'd be the one to do. Alrighty, well, I suppose we should probably wrap this turkey up. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's been a good episode. Thanks.
At least it's been fun.
At least one of us has to go and do an actual job tomorrow, so you know. Sorry about that, Shawn.
Look, someone's going to do it, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's true. This is true.
Keep the world turning.
Shawn, where can we find you online?
Just go to www.rugbyleagueproject.org.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a little website there I set up.
Mm-hmm.
I think you might enjoy it.
Excellent. And where can we find you online, Andrew?
At leaguefreak.co.uk. I'll be writing some sweet content.
Nice.
About how good Wales are at rugby league.
Yeah, wow. Short website, eh? I like them small form writing. That's
fan sites.
Yeah, fan sites.
I think I could guess League Freak's website. Is it www.desperatehousewivesofmounttruitt.com.au?
You know what would be good about that is that you've already got the camera set up because they're at, Penrith train station. You just need to get some better lighting down there.
That would be pretty cool. These are my people. These are my people you're making fun of. How dare you?
Oh, we can make it a bit even if you want, because there was a bit of murdering that went on in the car park at the shopping centre down near my house here a couple of weeks ago.
I saw that. See, that stuff doesn't happen around where I live. We kill you in the bush.
Yeah. It's a bit more brazen down here.
Yeah.
Stick with what you know, I guess, is what's going on down here.
Exactly. Ropes Creek.
We're going to put Ropes Creek on the map. That's our plan for the next 500 episodes. Well, look, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thank you, Shawn, for coming on and carrying the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's always been a pleasure. You the man. And League Freak, well done on 500 episodes. You've done more of them than I have.
Yeah, you've done good. We should celebrate your 500th episode, eh?
Yeah, that's in about 30 episodes' time.
Yeah, we'll do it with the same thing that happened with Terry Lamb.
Absolutely, that sounds fair. Good. Make sure you check us out on the socials, everybody, and we'll catch us all next time.